It's the classic rock lost and found. Right here on Penn's Peak Radio.
All right, how's everyone doing tonight? You're tuned into the classic rock lost and found with me, Matt Sterner, on this Tuesday night. And it is now my honor to welcome to the show a true jam band veteran who helped shape the genre, played alongside musical guests such as Elvin Bishop, Chuck Berry, Steve Kimmock, John Kahn, and of course, Jerry Garcia, who named him the Master of the Universe. He's going to be playing here at Penn's Peak this Thursday. Melvin Seals. How you doing tonight, Melvin?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you.
Good, good. So where are you at right now?
I'm in San Francisco.
And you're catching a flight over this way soon?
I'm coming out your way tonight.
Awesome, awesome.
Can't wait to get out there.
And you played at Penn's Peak 4 times now, correct?
About 4 times, yes. It's one of my favorite venues.
So you're making your way across the country, got some gigs in California, New York, North Carolina. Then you made your way up to the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival in Canada. You opened for the Levon Helm Band out there, correct?
Yeah, that was a great show. That was a really great show. Matter of fact, we're going back in about a week.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
Wow. Going all around. Do you notice any significant differences in the demographics of the audience between playing at a jam festival like the Garcia Gathering, Grateful Fest, playing an intimate venue like Penn's Peak, or playing a jazz and blues festival? What kind of differences do you notice?
Well, over in Canada, they were very loud and rowdy in a good way. That's all I can say. We had, in between songs, we couldn't even start the next song. They were really screaming and just roaring. I don't know if they don't get it as much or they just love it that much. I'm not quite for sure, but it was really, really loud and rowdy in a really way.
Yeah, I think we get that way sometimes at Penn's Peak too, but I mean, those folks in Canada, I think, get neglected of a lot of the dead stuff.
Yeah.
So they're pretty happy when you make it around there. I'm sure you know
what it is.
Yeah. I'm sure you noticed quite a difference in March of 1987. I had some people I post on some different Dead Gear fan pages and stuff like that. In March of 1987, you played a show on the USS Carl Vinson, and some people had some questions about that in the San Francisco Bay. Could you give us some insight into that gig?
That was with the Garcia band. Am I correct?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a strange gig. You know, I remember that. I didn't understand it, to be honest. But I do remember it, and it was kind of an unusual gig because I think it was more for the Navy than Deadheads.
Yeah.
And the response was not quite the same. You know what I mean? It's just like I was saying in Canada, they were loud and rowdy. They kind of like clapped a little bit.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So was that the strangest gig that you had, or have you had stranger gigs or situations with Jerry and the others?
That was probably the strangest one. I'm trying to think, was there anything else out of the ordinary? I mean, all of them were strange to a certain extent. A lot of things go on at those gigs, you know that. But that was one that I think we were in the wrong place at the well, I'm not going to say the wrong place at the wrong time, but they didn't know how to respond. Maybe they couldn't respond like they wanted to. You know, maybe there were some deadheads there, but they couldn't let it out.
Yeah, maybe they're not allowed to.
Well, that's kind of how it was. I don't feel like they were allowed to step out of a certain boundary. They all stayed very proper. So that was definitely probably one of the strangest ones that we did. I think that could have been it. We also played once with the band. We did a gig with the band. I can't tell you the year. I only did one set with the band, and that was another particular strange gig. I think something happened with the money, and bands wasn't being paid, and I don't even know if we went on, if we did a few songs and stopped and left. It was kind of strange, too.
All right. So you began your musical journey through experiencing gospel music in your church, correct?
Absolutely.
So after all these years, you've clearly stuck to your roots, playing quite a few powerful gospel tunes with JGB. and the rotary sound of the Hammond organ is much credited for that. You seem to favor that. What makes the Hammond organ your primary instrument of choice?
Well, I started off in the church trying to play the piano because the organ was not the main instrument in the church. But then I heard this organ, this gospel organ rock sound. I think Billy Preston is the first one I paid attention to. I've always heard jazz organists, Jimmy Smith, Jimmy McGriff, and Shirley Scott, and Richard Groove, all those. But then I heard this gospel, but had this rock element to it, and that was Billy Preston that delivered that, and that just turned my head. I said, I got to do that. That's what I want. And so he was one of my major influence way back. He used to be on American Bandstand and Shindig. I don't know if you're that old and you remember any of that stuff.
Oh, I'm 21 years old. I don't remember any of it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well, I'm going over your head. Fans that do remember that, that's where I kind of picked up that style.
Interesting. I've also read that, like you said before, you played around with the piano a lot. I read in an interview that you occasionally do some gigs and you play some jazz piano when you're back home.
Yeah, well, even before I got with Jerry, I did a lot of Broadway shows with John Hendricks, Lander Hendricks and Ross, and Oscar Brown Jr., and just Broadway shows where they did the classic jazz, the bebop, and I did that quite well. I never wanted to sit in a seat and be a jazz musician, but I like to tamper around with it.
You have any other different projects in mind for the future that might have some piano in it?
Well, I have a funk project that I'm working on now, a jam band funk project, which will be a lot of keyboards, piano and organ, and synthesizer.
Oh, interesting.
They come out hopefully early part of next year. Just originals. I've been doing the Jerry Garcia thing for so long that that's all I've really been doing since I've gotten with him was that style of music. And there's some other things I like to introduce to the fans. Not walking away from anything, but just saying, hey, check this out. You've never heard this side of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did some of that with your Melting Pot album.
That at the time, my direction was not straight. I was pulled in so many directions. I was listening to a lot of festivals, and I was listening to the mandolin and the folk and bluegrass stuff. So I was pulled a little bit in that direction. I was pulled a little in the country field direction, and that's what happened there. That album didn't have a firm direction. There was many different styles on it. Now I'm going for the funk, pure funk.
Awesome. You can have some horns in that too?
I guess I am.
Oh, good. I can't wait for that.
Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be quite enjoyable.
Yeah, try to make your way to Penn's Peak with that lineup. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So you were born in San Francisco, and you started your musical career there. Can you give us some insight as to how San Francisco shaped you as a musician and influenced your style and direction, as well as influenced your taste in music, besides what you've told me before?
Well, again, when I got with Jerry, that really changed my style and influenced my music from what I've always known. I mean, from playing gospel music and playing early R&B music, you dot your I's and you cross your T's very well. And so what I mean by that is that, when you rehearse with bands, when you play accents or sing little loops or things that you do, you try and make them as tight as possible. And so I came from that feel of just, being able to hit the punchline really good. And then when I got with Jerry, the punchline was not punchy. Guess what I'm trying to say? There was a certain element that it fell apart a lot of times. And I didn't understand that. So these musicians are too great to, when we come to this C chord, we're not hitting it all at one time.
Yeah.
I had to learn, and that's when I had to learn jam band music is not necessarily that tight. It's about a vibe and a feel, and it may not be politically tight and correct, but it just changes every night, and that's what it's all about. You never get the same thing.
So was making that transition tough for you, or after you understood the whole improv thing, you kind of just swung into it?
It was a little tough because my thing was, come on, you guys, it's really easy. But it wasn't meant to be that way. It was kind of hard at first, but I had to learn, and as I listened to other styles of music in that genre of music, it's like, okay, this is just the way that is. And it's okay that, if you make a mistake or a bloop or whatever, actually they love that stuff, so.
Right.
And so it just kind of loosened me up and lightened me up to not worry about it and just play what you feel and don't try and script it so much. Let it breathe. Play what you feel.
So was that your first real experience with the Deadheads? Did you know about Deadheads really before John Kahn introduced you to Jerry? Any others?
Yeah, I knew nothing about Deadheads. I knew the name Grateful Dead because I live in the Bay Area, and naturally, end of the year they would sell out to the Oakland Auditorium over there. They would play in New Year's in Oakland most time, and you hear about it on the news. So, or you'll hear like, today is Mickey Hart's Grateful Dead birthday, blah 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 blah. So what I knew of the Grateful Dead was what the news said about that.
Right.
And whenever and that was it. I couldn't point one of them out. I didn't know them. I was not into the music. I knew nothing. As a matter of fact, the day I went to rehearsal, John Kahn never told me. It's a little brief story. John Kahn never told me who it was. He just said, when he met me playing with Maria Madar, if I wanted to play in another band, would I be interested? And I said, yes, love to just, yeah. So he called me up one day and said, well, that band I told you about, we got this little rehearsal up at Front Street, and can you be up here such and such, and we have a couple of local gigs. Yeah, of course. So I was the first one there, being on time, trying to make a great impression. I was there. And so when they came in, John Kahn came in with about 4 or 5 other guys. And so, you know how when you meet 5, 6 people and then, hey, I'm John Gregory, hey, I'm blah, 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 hey, I'm so-so. You hear the name, but it's in short-term memory. You don't really get it.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Melvin Seals, and you met all these guys. Okay, so I didn't remember their names, but we went in the room and did 2 songs. We did How Sweet It Is, and there was Second Night Emotion, 2 Motel songs, Motown songs.
Right.
And so after that, the guy on the guitar, which I didn't know who he was, said, yep, that's what I want. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Let's take a break. And we went back into the other room, and so I said, man, you sure play some great guitar. And the people around was busting up because they knew I didn't have a clue who he was. And so, well, you play some pretty good organ yourself. So we quickly, the days after, I learned what I was involved with, but I had no idea who Jerry Garcia was. I was looking at all these guys. I couldn't point them out. I didn't know who he was.
You didn't know what you were getting yourself into.
But let me say this. Really, it was a little strange for me because, I'm still involved with the church. I still play for choirs and groups, and I produced. I had a record company, a gospel label, and I was producing gospel. So I was very involved with the gospel. And so here I come from gospel and, with some Broadway plays and, other little stuff, and little Elvin Bishop. And I walk into their warehouse. Like I said, I was the early first one there. And I see skeletons all over the wall. Yeah, I mean, seriously, skeleton with a rose in his hand, skeleton with a violin in his hand. And remember, I don't know nothing about any of this stuff. And I'm saying, what in the... And I can't say the rest on the radio station. I was actually kind of scared because, there were cults going on and stuff, and the Jim Jones things, I didn't know what it was.
Wow.
Obviously, what I learned in the church, I knew that,
Yeah.
But, quickly I've learned Deadheads, the Jerry Garcia, the fans, the folks, they're the most lovingest people on the planet Earth. And I'd rather be nowhere else but with them now.